Can you imagine a gentle Scottish afternoon, Balmoral's lush meadows bathed in gold, bees buzzing over delicate foxgloves, the sound of children's laughter carrying across rolling lawns, turning in a heartbeat into a defining showdown for the future of the monarchy? That's exactly what happened on July 15th, when what was meant to be a heartwarming family gathering instead exposed a hidden venom so sharp that Prince William drew an iron boundary, banning Camilla's eldest grandchild from ever receiving a royal title. A carefully orchestrated family day. It all started as King Charles's hopeful experiment. Confronted with persistent whispers that the Windsors had grown too fractured, riddled with half-healed wounds from Diana's tragic history, tension around Harry's exile, and uncertainties about Camilla's blended clan, he decided it was time for unity. So Charles arranged what courtiers softly called the family restoration picnic, handpicking a guest list that paired his own grandchildren with Camilla's. The day was set like a watercolor dream. Picnics on tartan blankets, castle chefs turning out delicate mini quiches and strawberry tarts, even a string quartet under an old oak. Camilla's grandkids arrived wide-eyed, their mothers fussing over collars and curls, while George, Charlotte, and Louis ran straight for a makeshift football pitch near a rose garden. For an hour or two, everything seemed a triumph. Corgis bounded after sandwich crusts. Catherine shared gentle smiles with Camilla across linen tables. Charles looked proudly over the scene, convinced he had engineered a rare Windsor reconciliation. The brewing underneath, old resentments and new ambitions. But what the cameras didn't see, what only seasoned royal aides recognized, was how these scenes carried undercurrents of delicate rivalry. For years, Camilla had gently pushed to see her family treated with the same ceremonial nods, honorary ribbons at Trooping the Colour, chapel appearances, the occasional invite to a garden party guest list traditionally reserved for direct heirs. Many said it was harmless, she wanted her grandchildren to feel part of history. But for others, particularly for William and Catherine, it was a subtle encroachment on the sacred concept of lineage and earned dignity. Palace staff who briefed William had quietly flagged concerns. The older grandchild repeats things he's heard at home, barbs about the Waleses being too showy, or that George is just a little boy parading about like he owns the place. Up to this day, it had all been chalked up to childish awkwardness. That fragile courtesy was about to shatter. When play turned poison. It began during a simple pick-up football game. George, dressed casually but with that unmistakable Windsor composure, moved cautiously, almost self-consciously. He knows every camera is a future headline. As he ran, Camilla's eldest grandchild reportedly whispered just loud enough for nearby cousins to hear. "Look at him prancing. Thinks he's the king already. With his mummy's walk." When George didn't react, the child doubled down, mocking the fact that George's grandmother Diana couldn't even handle the palace. Some words cut deeper because they echo private family ache. George had been raised to venerate Diana's memory, often visiting the white roses planted for her. What might have been idle mischief became calculated cruelty. George fled the pitch, eyes burning. Catherine saw it all from beneath a lace-trimmed canopy where she was pouring tea for Charles. She stood so quickly the silver tray rattled. The steely heart of a mother. Kate guided George behind a hedge. "There, in hushed heartbreak," he explained. His quiet voice shook, describing the jibes about Diana, about his father playing king because nobody else wants the crown. Catherine's calm face transformed, her hand tightening on George's shoulder in a silent oath. "Not again. Not this family. Not my children." Later, when aides tried to soothe her with soft words, "Boys can be rough. They'll forget it by supper." Her expression froze into something glacial. One footman later whispered, "It was the same look she gives photographers when they cross the line. Only this time, it was aimed inside the family." William's resolute night. That evening, after Charlotte and Louis were tucked into bed, Catherine recounted every detail to William. George listened from the staircase, head peeking around the banister. William didn't rage. Instead, he fell silent, his jaw working as decades of inherited scars rose up. The press that hounded his mother, the whispered palace cruelties she endured, the fear that his own son would grow up haunted by the same shadows. He called a private meeting in his library at Adelaide Cottage. In front of his closest advisors, he spoke words that forever altered the Windsor line. "Camilla's grandchild will have no honorary titles. Not now, not ever." He will not stand with my son at ceremonies. He will not carry wreaths. He will not walk the corridor beside George at Westminster Abbey. This family is sacred. It protects its own. There was no official committee. No vote. Just a father making a promise that trumped tradition. How the palace reacted. The news raced through corridors faster than any official press release. By morning, even the housekeeping staff at Clarence's house knew. Camilla received the word at her breakfast table, a trembling note on heavy stationery. Her face reportedly drained of color. When she later confronted Charles in his study, demanding he override William's unilateral decision, the king simply shook his head. He's the father. It ends there. Those who know Camilla best say this was the moment her ambitions for her family quietly died. 4 years, she had championed their subtle inclusion, small favors, soft nudges at court schedules, a strategic seat here, a brief camera shot there. In one stroke, William erased decades of carefully plotted positioning. Public shock, then overwhelming support. When the tabloids got hold of the story, first as cautious leaks, then as roaring headlines, public sentiment was electric. Older Britons, long nostalgic for the grace Diana brought, instinctively rallied behind William. Twitter hashtags #StandWithGeorge and #MonarchByMerit trended for days. Even harsh critics of the monarchy admitted, whatever else you think of them, protecting a child from targeted cruelty is as human and necessary as it gets. Polls within a week showed an 82% surge in support for William's handling, with only a tiny margin calling it overly harsh. Radio callers praised him for showing real backbone, while morning shows framed it as the moment William proved he was already more than a prince, he was the steady hand of the future crown. How Catherine quietly led the healing. In the days that followed, Catherine cancelled 2 public engagements. Not for scandal, but to stay home with George, to reground him in love and daily calm. Reports say she spent mornings reading aloud, afternoons teaching him simple watercolor painting. A family friend revealed, they want George to understand his worth comes from who he is, not what a crown says. It wasn't long before Catherine began personally overseeing palace child welfare protocols, ensuring future events would include safe zones for young royals, licensed counselors on standby, and strict vetting of who could privately mingle with heirs. Behind the scenes, she has become the architect of a new standard that puts emotional health ahead of outdated pageantry. A different Windsor future. So yes, Camilla's grandson will never bear a ceremonial sword, never kneel for an honorary ribbon, never be listed beside George in any coronation roll. Some called it harsh. But most saw it for what it truly was, a father and mother, standing on history's grandest stage, choosing their child's safety over smooth optics. Why this hits so deep? For many watching, especially our viewers 55 and up, this story isn't just palace gossip. It echoes every kitchen table clash over family loyalty versus protecting our young. We've all felt the pinch of tradition trying to silence us, when we knew better. William and Catherine broke that cycle. Your turn. Have you ever had to defend a child from family spite? Chosen uncomfortable truth over easy silence? Share your stories in the comments. And if you believe children deserve safe spaces even behind gilded gates, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because in any family, royal or not, protecting the next generation is the truest legacy of all.